you can look that wallet up on the blockchain. There's something like 250,000 NFTs in there, or some obscene number. It's crazy. But that it works very similar to a custodial exchange like Gemini or Coinbase, which are all companies that people are very familiar with. And that, especially for newbies, is a very secure way to hold your NFTs, because self-custodying NFTs is really tricky and there's a very high cost of failure.
Alejandro, how are we doing?
Oh man, it feels so good to be back. I know I took a little bit of hiatus from the podcast, just working really hard on our events at the Art Basel and just gearing up for an excellent 2022. I'm doing phenomenal, Matt. Thank you so much for having me, brother.
Well, we are grateful to all of your work as well, and we're happy to have you back. Today, we've got guests I'm very excited to get on. We've got Duncan and Griffin Cock-Foster, co-founders of Nifty Gateway, one of the leading NFT platforms in the space. As you know, the sales volume explosion there last year really kind of helped kick off the whole bull run that we've experienced. And I'm really excited to hear their thoughts about some of the lessons learned from that experience and what they have coming in the new year. How about you?
Man, I'm just really excited to hear about their founding story, the dynamics of working with twin brothers as like twin brothers, but also working with twin brothers, Gemini. And I'm just really excited to see how they're navigating the startup life. It's going to be really interesting to see what they have in store for 2022.
Absolutely. Before we jump into it, just a reminder, if you haven't already, sign up for our newsletter, nftnow.com/newsletter. We're always distilling, everything that's going on in the markets into actionable insights for you. We know it's a lot to keep up with, so valuable resource for you as you go forward. Without any further ado, Duncan and Griffin Cock-Foster from Nifty Gateway. Duncan, Griffin, so glad to have you on the NFT Now podcast 2022. How are you both doing?
Great. Thanks for having us. Oh yeah, Matt, it's great to be here. Thanks for having us, guys.
Of course. So we got a lot to get into, but real quick, before we jump into everything, for our listeners who may not be familiar, give just a quick backstory of Nifty Gateway and your entry point to NFTs.
Totally. Nifty Gateway has been around since 2018. We got into NFTs pretty early, and the focus has always been on accessibility. Our motto is, we will not rest until 1 billion people are collecting NFTs. The goal has always been to make NFTs easier to access. I tell this story everywhere I go, but our investor, Adam Draper, he told us the story about him trying to buy a CryptoKitty. He spent 4 hours trying to buy and gave up. And we looked at that and we said, NFTs are not going to hit mass adoption until we can reduce the friction and we can make it easy for people to get started. And that's what Nifty Gateway has always been about. We've always built products that aim to make it, faster, easier, safer, and cheaper for people to buy, sell, and store NFTs. And our product, the one that everybody knows us for, is the Nifty Gateway Marketplace, and that launched almost 2 years ago now. It launched March 2020, right about the week that all the lockdowns hit, which was an interesting time to launch a product. But what I'd say what we're known for is drops with top tier artists. We've done a lot of drops with some really, really great artists like Pac, like Beeple, Micah Johnson, and also, like Duncan said, the accessibility. Nifty Gateway offers custody as a feature to customers as well as fiat on-ramps. So what that means is if you're a new user, you can come sign up and buy an NFT in 5 minutes with just a credit card. And we custody it for you if you want. And then you can always withdraw it to your own self-custodied wallet at any time if you want as well. And Duncan and I have been building this space for 3 years now. We've always believed in the long-term potential of NFTs, and it's been remarkable to watch how much the NFT industry has grown since we started, and since it was this tiny little thing that maybe a few hundred people were buying and selling NFTs, and we just got such a look of skepticism from our friends and family, and now here we are 3 years later, and all of our friends are degenning into thousands of dollars worth of NFTs. It's a remarkable shift. It's been quite the ride.
All right. So quick question, guys. Who came up with the idea, and how did the idea for Nifty come up?
I came up with the idea, and I got Griffin interested. He was skeptical of NFTs at first, as many people are. I mean, it's a weird concept.
That's true. Especially 3 years ago. That's a lot of foresight, Duncan. All right, like, we're now 1 year. Let's bring it back to the present. We're now 1 year out from the explosive market numbers that thrust Nifty into the spotlight and kicked off this massive NFT bull run that was 2021. Take us back. What was that like?
I honestly would describe it as like a pretty crazy and overwhelming experience. I mean, I don't think I was just listening to the Y Combinator like startup school podcast over the holidays, and one point that they made is like, as startups grow like and get later stage, you have like higher highs and lower lows at the same time. So like, yes, you get like that satisfaction, like the first people drop or the second people sale when he did over $2 million. And it was sort of this insane moment for NFTs. And I think I really date the craziness back to that moment, because a lot of people woke up and said, wait a second, you can sell $2 million selling NFTs. Like what are those now? I think that really kicked off so much of the craziness. That was a very high, but then you also get the low lows of, all of a sudden you have way too much volume on your system. You don't have enough staff to handle it. Your customer support department is non-existent, because Griffin and I were doing the customer support. We didn't have zero customer support people. And then, all the other issues just get magnified at scale. So that's really the way I would describe it. Higher highs and lower lows, and just more volatility. That's what comes with being a founder when a space blows up like NFTs did.
How big was your team during that time, if I may ask?
Great question. Back a year ago, I remember it very well. I think our team was 8 people, and we went from we did $1 million in volume in November 2020. Which, for us, we were like delighted. We were like $1 million. Holy crap. Our first month we did $30,000. But then 5 months after November 2020, in March 2021, we did $140 million in volume. And our team only grew probably by 2 or 3 people. So, we went from our monthly volume grew 140x in the span of 5 months. And our team went from 6 to 8, and we were just completely drowning. I remember a year ago, I think it was about a year ago, there were periods where we get 200 customer support requests a day or more. And we didn't have a single full-time customer support person, which, it's just a hell I can't really describe. It's horrible. And so many people needed help. And there was just...
Is there a memorable like experience that you had with a customer rep? Is there like one of those like in the trenches stories that you'd love to share?
Yeah, well, I remember it was about a year ago, and this was during lockdown. So I was with my family, and I was staying at my uncle's house in California, and he saw me, and he was like, he said at the time, like, he thought I looked really stressed out, and he was like, "Poor Griffin, like, I think you should calm down." And then when he found out that we were dealing with 200 customer support requests a day, and I was the only person answering them, he was like, "Wow," I'm like amazed he's not more freaked out. Like, holy crap. No, I don't know. In the past year, we've hired a lot of people, and now we have a whole team and a fantastic director of client services who leads customer support. And that some things you can't speed up, and I wish we could have handled all that scaling much better. But now we're in a much better place. So that is pretty great to see, and I'm really, really proud of the team we've hired at Nifty. Like, some incredible people.
Absolutely. And, whenever you have like a meteoric rise like that, you're always playing catch up mode, especially as a company of that size. Thinking back, over the past year, a lot of ups and downs, like you said, like high highs, low lows. I know like some areas of issues that you dealt with, were some criticisms around like oversupply when it came to the drops, and then, some things that would come up with artist relations. Just curious to hear your thoughts on like, what would you do differently, like kind of given the benefit of hindsight?
Totally. That's a great question. I think the main thing that we've learned, or one of the main things that we've learned over the past year, is that our thesis is wrong. Our thesis was wrong. I think we've corrected now. Our thesis was wrong about what would make the highest quality NFTs a year ago. And this is a lot of our thinking at the time was impacted by the way that the space evolved and the way the space was viewed. But a year ago, our thinking was, okay, the people who are going to make the most impactful NFTs, the like most valuable NFTs, are people who are really good in some other medium that are going to come in and crush this medium because they're famous, they have a bunch of followers, and they're really successful, as a physical artist, or maybe they found a bunch of success as a DJ, and that means that they're going to be able to succeed in the NFT medium. So we really that was our thesis, and we spent a lot of time like pursuing those people and trying to convince them to make NFTs, because we thought that was the best way to grow the NFT space. I think what we quickly saw is that actually the people who make the best NFTs, this is what we learned over the past year, are the NFT native creators. And I actually think there's a pretty simple explanation for that. Griffin had a good way of putting this, where he's like, if you're Robert De Niro, for example, you wake up every day and you think, how can I be a better actor? And like every waking hour is dedicated to that. And then maybe if you're making an NFT as Robert De Niro, like you're really good at being an actor, but you haven't really thought about how to make a great NFT. Whereas if you're Pac, you wake up every day and you say, how do I make better NFTs? If you're like, Bored Apes or Doodles, you wake up every day and you say, how do I like grow this NFT native brand? So NFTs are, as a creative medium, they have enough depth and enough complexity that it really tends to be the people who are most native to the medium and are constantly working to improve themselves. The people who wake up every day and say, how do I make better NFTs? That would be what I say is the main learning for me, is that NFT native, like NFTs are a complex and nuanced enough medium that it tends to be the native creators who do the best. On oversupply as well, I mean, I would say, we didn't have a strong enough curation thesis. And we definitely have a stronger curation thesis now. Like the curated drops, I think they're doing really well. There was like a period where a lot of curated drops were not doing as well. Some of them weren't selling out, but they really recovered quite nicely. And actually our curated drop volume in December was, I think, higher than it's ever been. So they're hitting new highs. Obviously every journey you're going to learn, adjust and grow. But yeah, that would really be the main thing that I would say about curation.
I would also, I would say Duncan's right. It's definitely been a year of high and low lows. And anyone who's been around in the NFT space has seen it, and they've seen like Nifty get a lot of criticism on Twitter. My impression is that it's ebbed recently, but there were certainly periods where we got criticized a lot. And the other one, we saw some people just get really frustrated with the amount of bugs on the site and issues, and some big collectors, basically rage quit, which my impression is that came from just not being ready to scale. We had such a small team, there were 8 of us handling $140 million a month in volume. So many people just weren't getting responses to their customer support requests, which is a horrible experience. I can't really blame anyone for churning if that happens to them. But I will say now we're thinking a lot more diligently about what we need to do to scale and working backwards from that. And we are committed to providing a great experience in all the stuff that we do. And the NFT space has changed a lot since then. It's really interesting to see. So, it's been a journey, but great learning experience. And I will just say it's good to prepare for scale in a company and work backwards and think about that. And that's something that Duncan and I really have learned.
Yeah, there's no substitute for senior technical talent or for people who have like built robust systems before. We wrote a lot of the early code for Nifty. And we're honestly more of hackers than engineers is the way I would describe myself. So like you build the MVP and that gets you to the point where like you're able to bring on the more senior people. Now the people like we haven't written code for Nifty for a long time. Now the people writing code are like true professionals, and they're really building a robust system. And I think the users have really noticed that. Like the amount of bugs are like nowhere near where they were, and it's only getting better. So that's really exciting.
That's really awesome, man. And thank you so much for that incredibly candid response. I really appreciate it. It's a refreshing take. A question on that front in terms of scaling, you guys are part of Gemini, and like in scaling that capacity. What are some of the kind of like learnings that you guys have taken from the Winklevi and from the Gemini organization that in terms of scaling, and how is that kind of incorporated into Nifty?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the number one lesson that I've learned from the Winklevi isn't actually like technology related. It's I would say like, it's really critical to be integrity first. That's the way I would describe the thing that I've learned from the Winklevoss twins. They've optimized from integrity for day one, and they like never compromise when it comes to something like that. And that really pays off with the culture. Like that's full of trust, where like people feel psychologically safe and people feel like ready, willing to commit and like put themselves on the line for the company. So like I think that's the number one most important lesson. And I think like it can be easy to get that wrong, or to like, you see a lot of entrepreneurs say like, okay, whatever, like I don't care about PR, I don't care about doing the right thing. And like I feel like it always comes back to bite them in the end, like with Mark Zuckerberg and Elizabeth Holmes. I don't know. So like, yeah, I think it derives from their very long-term orientation and like their high level of conviction in everything that they do. But I think that's the most important lesson. And then, I mean, just from a purely operational standpoint, like we would never be able to, like Gemini has been absolutely critical in scaling. The thing about an organization like Gemini is you get people who really understand technology extremely, extremely well, and who like have built systems at scale before. There's really no replacement for that. Like you can Google a lot of code snippets. You can't Google a way to build like a truly robust system that handles like something to scale up the POC drop. That only comes from experience. So like having that experience on our side and having Gemini has been absolutely critical. And our CTO now, Eric Weiner, he was the VP of engineering at Gemini. And he built a lot of the early Gemini system, and now he's our CTO. So that's been huge for us.
Yeah, Eric's good people, man. I've been a huge fan of his career, man.
Really. Oh, totally. He really is.
Yeah, no, I think that's all really great insights. And, you touched on something where you said, like, the NFT space has changed even a lot since, a year ago, even 6 months ago. It moves really quickly. I always say like weeks or months or years, And as we've seen trends over the past year, like the rise of PFP projects, the rise of OpenSea as this massive secondary marketplace. And I know that Nifty Gateway is now also, incorporating outside projects and also expanding as a secondary marketplace. So if you could tell us a little bit about that initiative, and also like what your approach is there. Like why should an NFT user choose Nifty Gateway over, say, an OpenSea or another marketplace?
Yeah, great question. So a few things here. As Duncan said, Nifty Gateway has always been the accessible marketplace, and that's a really great way to think about it. One feature we have that we offer to people that, again, I think in large part we're able to do well because we're a part of Gemini and because we have their custody technology, is that we have custodial NFT trading and custodial NFT purchasing. And that's one feature we offer to people. For a lot of experienced NFT users, that's not really that useful. People who are self-hosting a wallet and self-custodying, they don't really care about that. But who it is really useful for is new NFT purchasers. Like so many people I talk to when I meet them at NFT NYC or Basel or just online, they say that they bought their first ever NFT on Nifty Gateway. That's an incredibly common experience because it's so easy. Buying an NFT on Nifty Gateway, you just go sign up with an email and password. You use the same flow that you're used to, and you put in your credit card and you hit buy, and you can go from not owning an NFT to owning an NFT in 60 seconds. And there's no other site where you can do that, right? It means you don't have to set up a wallet. And so I would tell people, if you ever want to get your friends into NFTs, and they're hesitant, have them dip their toe in the water on Nifty Gateway. It's a really great way to just get them started, and they can do it super easily. And the custody is very safe. That being said, the custody is just one product that we offer. And now what we're working on is being fully hybrid custodial and non-custodial. We're not attached to being custodial by any means. It's a great product that a lot of people benefit from, but self-custody is really, really powerful. And it's one of the coolest things about crypto.
Hey,
so now,
before we dive into that, there's a lot of our listeners who are probably entering the NFT for the first time. And I would love to get you to explain to them what custodial is and custodial to custodial, right, to kind of position that into context for, the people who are just starting to enter the NFT space. Because I think this is an incredibly important key differentiator for Nifty on a technological standpoint. So would love to get that context brought up.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I often forget, I think it's tough to appreciate too. And there's not a lot of guides where you can read about this immediately. Like it takes people weeks or months to figure out like what's actually going on under the hood.
And this is why we're here. This is why NFT now is here for you.
Yeah. Basically what that means is, so when you buy an NFT on Nifty Gateway right now, and it shows up in your Nifty Gateway profile, it's being held in a giant wallet that Nifty Gateway controls. It's called the Nifty Gateway Omnibus wallet. You can look that wallet up on the blockchain. There's something like 250,000 NFTs in there or some obscene number. It's crazy. But that it works very similar to a custodial exchange like Gemini or Coinbase, which are all companies that people are very familiar with. And that, especially for newbies, is a very secure way to hold your NFTs, because self-custodying NFTs is really tricky and there's a very high cost of failure. You hear people get their wallets hacked all the time. I mean, it's basically a daily occurrence on Twitter. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's really tricky to set up your own crypto wallet, set up your own MetaMask or Rainbow or whatever, and self-custody your NFTs and do it in a way that's secure. So yeah, that is what custodial means, that Nifty Gateway basically has a big wallet where we hold your NFTs on your behalf. If you want, once you are a little more into crypto, you can set up your own wallet and withdraw them from your Nifty Gateway account to your own wallet at any point. And pretty soon what we're going to launch is where you won't just be able to log into Nifty Gateway with an email and password. You'll also be able to log in with your wallet, and you'll also be able to see all of your wallets and all of the NFTs on there. I don't know. Is there anything you want to add, Duncan?
No, I think that was a great explanation. I'm just eager to pick up the thread about the secondary market that Matt asked about earlier.
Yeah, let's dive into it, Duncan. Let's go about the secondary market. Let's rock it.
Yeah. So basically, around last year, we started investigating the new things we could work on, new things we can build, and we realized that with the existing custody tech that we have and the existing way that we have of matching orders, we could basically offer people a way to trade NFTs from one wallet, or buy and sell NFTs from one wallet directly to another wallet. And we could do so in a way that uses far less gas than any other platform out there. And we saw how much of an issue gas was becoming. A lot of projects, if the floor price is $100 or $150 and you have to spend $100 worth of gas to purchase that NFT, a lot of people just won't make that purchase. So we thought, okay, let's go out and build a product where we have a wallet-to-wallet secondary market. Users can list items for sale from their wallet in ETH on Nifty Gateway, and then other users can come and buy them. And we'll be able to offer this way lower gas fee experience to users. And because of that, we'll be able to unlock a lot of innovation and a lot of projects that weren't unlocked before. I think the role of platforms, the role of NFT creators is to create awesome NFTs and to think about how can I, make these cooler. The role of NFT platforms is to reduce friction and to make it easier for people to access NFTs, to lower costs, to help NFTs propagate more widely. So we're really excited about an experience that will save so many people so much gas, and make the whole ecosystem cheaper for everybody. We think that'll unlock a lot of liquidity and a lot of innovation that wouldn't be possible without lower gas fees. This is all on mainnet Ethereum. I should mention. I realized I didn't contextualize that, but that is where most of the issues with gas fees are.
So what I'm hearing from you is that it's going to be cheaper, faster, and more secure to be able to move on that front, right? In terms of trading NFTs on Nifty.
Right. It will actually. A lot of the attack vectors that I've read that target other marketplaces, they basically involve you getting users to sign fake orders. So that also won't be an attack vector on the way that we do it. So yeah, it will also be more secure for a first time user. It'll essentially be harder for an attacker to get them to sign something fake to steal their NFTs. So yeah, it's a really exciting product where we think it'll have a big impact on the space. We think it'll unleash a new wave of innovation and liquidity, because people will be able to do things that they're already doing and for a much cheaper cost and a much better experience overall. And I should also mention, once we launch this, we're doing a big event called the WAGMI Winter Wham. We'll have a bunch of trading rewards. Basically, we're going to partner with a bunch of projects and artists who will all offer their own rewards. We did something similar called the Secondary Summer Slam, and it was really awesome. I think everyone had a great time. But yeah, it'll basically be a multi-day event. You'll get rewards just for using Nifty Gateway. We're gonna go big. We're gonna do everything we can to get people excited about our new product and get to them to try it for the first time. So we're really excited about it. We think it's going to be a pretty big moment for Nifty Gateway and for the entire space.
Man, that's really awesome, man. And it sounds like this past year has been really filled with a lot of successes for Nifty and the artists on the platform. As you guys mentioned, there's been highs and highs and the lows of the lows, but I'd love to take the conversation into a more interpersonal relationship, because platforms don't exist without artists and artists don't exist without the platforms, and collectors are also this like little triangular relationship concept that's really important to the balance of the ecosystem. You guys touched on it this year that a lot of people were rage quitting, both from a collector standpoint and from an artist standpoint. And we saw a lot of feedback in the Twitter sphere. Looking forward, how does Nifty plan to improve artist relations with artists on your platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, especially when you're running a curated platform, artist relations are really tough. You have to say no to a lot of artists, and we have, and it fucking sucks. I mean, I think it's similar. When Duncan and I were starting Nifty Gateway, we applied to Y Combinator twice, which is this really famous startup accelerator, and sort of everybody who's a very early stage entrepreneur wants to get in. And if they reject you, it feels like just like a badge of shame. And yeah, I don't know, I was fucking pissed about it, and it really left a bad taste in my mouth. But sort of what I realized is that, Y Combinator, who's kind of a curator of early stage startups, getting rejected by them does not mean you're a bad startup. There's so many companies that get rejected by Y Combinator and end up being fantastic companies. And the same is true of anyone who curates artists, right? Like I think we still get over 100 applications a day, and we've had just so many artists apply to launch a curated drop on Nifty. And so many of them we've had to turn away, but it doesn't mean that they're bad artists. We're never going to get every great artist. That's just the reality. Like, we'll get it wrong so much. We just try to get a certain number of great artists on the platform. But there's a lot of artists that we'll miss out on. And I think that has caused a lot of anger and frustration, justifiably, within the artist community. Nifty Gateway kind of curating and saying no to people. And I think it's understandable. I would just say we're not experts on what will do well. Like, we just try to present great content to our users. And as for artist relations, I would say another tricky part has been that sort of the only way to drop on Nifty has been in a curated drop, and we are really limited in who we can give slots to. And sometimes we have to cancel people because the community is mad about oversupply. I mean, that definitely happened over the summer, and it was really shitty. And canceling on someone is also terrible. If they are all set up for a drop and then we end up canceling, I can imagine, like, that's a terrible feeling. I would say one thing we want to do is be more of an agnostic provider of tools that every artist can benefit from, or that a much, much larger group of artists can benefit from. We've built a lot of great drop tools. We have things like silent auctions. We have things like criteria where you can only enter a drop if you already own certain NFTs. We have ranked auctions. We have open editions. We have drawings. We have a lot of really, really awesome tools for releasing NFTs that don't exist on any other platform. And I would say Duncan and I are builders, and the organization we've built is all about building awesome tools that we just want people to benefit from. So that's what we're doing with verified drops. And we are really hoping to expand that in the next few months, is let a lot of artists use those drop tools and just launch great content on their own schedule, not curated, not with us as gatekeepers, because, no one likes gatekeepers. It's a tough position. They're probably necessary in some senses. Like, I think the fact that we present a curated selection of drops to people is awesome. And I view that as a product that people really benefit from. But we also want to build other products that don't involve gatekeepers and that all artists can access. So yeah, I don't know. That would be my answer. I think a lot of the anger that we've seen and like the difficulties are justifiable, and it's always tricky. Like, you do your best as a curator and you won't always make the right decision. So I don't know. I would say our next year, our focus is building tools that benefit the entire ecosystem. And like Duncan said, curated drops are a big part of Nifty Gateway and will be going forward, but they aren't exhaustive. We also want other tools that the entire ecosystem can benefit from and use. And we just want to build stuff that helps people adopt NFTs. I don't know. Do you have anything to add, Duncan?
Yeah, I mean, there's a classic piece of startup wisdom, which is do things that don't scale. I think it's most famous from Airbnb, where Airbnb wasn't really taking off in the early days. And because all the photos on their platform of the houses that they were trying to get people to stay in were so bad. So the founders like went to people's houses directly and just took photos and posted them on the platform. And we're like, here, we're going to take photos and help people improve their listings. And that's really what enabled Airbnb to take off. I would say, like, for us, the curated drops and building out these drop tools, we've done a great job building this platform, just by the very nature of curation and the very nature of the fact that there's only 7 days in a week. It can't really scale beyond 7 artists in a week maximum. And so building up the tools, letting anyone do their own Nifty drop with their own schedule, maybe even with their own curator if they want to work with a curator, we think will like let way more people access this tool, which has made a lot of artists very rich. So that's the other really like big initiative that we're working on this year. The two big initiatives are the secondary market and then opening up the verified drop tools to more creators. And I think it'll be, there are many different platforms that artists can launch on. I think Nifty is actually a pretty unique platform in, with all the creator rewards, with all the additions, the different types of drops formats. There's not really another platform out there that has all of those things all in one place. I think once we open it up to a lot more artists, the number of artists who have, started their careers and like been able to achieve financial independence is going to grow a lot, because those tools are really powerful. We've seen that with the curated medium. As we open it up more and more, it's just going to, empower a lot more artists. And I think, that's really what I'm most excited about. Curation, obviously, like by definition, it can't scale. Once we do more verified, more tools opening up to everybody, that can scale. And I think a lot of artists are going to benefit from that.
Yeah, no, that's all super helpful. And it's such a key part of the triangle that Ali was mentioning. And, the other key part of that is collector relations. I know we kind of touched on it. But as you said, there are some key collectors who rage quit in like a public fashion. Obviously there were some issues and some criticisms there. What would you say, like in terms of is your approach to kind of improving collector relations? And maybe what would you say to some of those collectors who maybe might be listening in, who did have a bad experience, to kind of what message would you have for them in terms of where Nifty Gateway is heading?
Well, whenever someone has a bad experience, I usually say the same thing, which is I say, like, don't over-index on one experience. Like even the best run businesses like have off days, and like nobody is perfect. So you really shouldn't judge something by a small sample of time. Our collector relations department, I think, has gone from non-existent really a year ago. This is another lesson for startup founders, I would say, is if you're a founder, don't do the customer support yourself. Yes, you do get to know customers, which is fun, but it just doesn't scale at all. And that's basically what happened to us. So a year ago, we literally had no customer support. Now I think we actually have some of the best customer support in the space. And some of the, Tara is in charge of our collector relations team. She's incredible. Almost everywhere I go now, the feedback I hear is, hey, I love working with Tara. I love working with the collector relations team. They're so helpful on everything. I think if anyone has had a bad experience, I would say don't over-index on that one bad experience. Don't over-index on a short period of time. Stay open-minded. The NFT space is like constantly growing and evolving. If you're dogmatic and say like, oh, I'll never go back to that platform or this blockchain because of one bad experience, then like I feel like you're going to miss opportunity and you're going to miss exciting stuff happening. So that's really what I would say. I honestly, I mostly hear very, very positive things about the team that we've built and the customer support and collector relations. I think they're really fantastic and they do an amazing job.
Yeah. And I would just add, Duncan and I are definitely not people who seek conflict or drama, although there's plenty of that in the NFT space. And, it's always fun, but, anyone who's had a bad experience or rage quit or experienced a lot of bugs, even if you were public about it, that's okay. Like I would just encourage them, DM me, we could talk about it. I would love to try and earn your trust back as a customer. And if not, that's okay too. Everyone should do what's best for themselves, but we're just going to keep doing our best. I think we really had a rough patch because our team was just way too small and we were not equipped to handle the growth. And that was really the fault of Duncan and I. We should have prepared better for the growth, but I feel much better about the place we're in now. And I feel a lot more confident in Nifty Gateway being much more robust and offering good services. So I don't know. We'll keep trying to do our best, whoever you are.
Wow, dude, what a heartfelt and genuine response, guys. Thank you so much for that and going in deep and addressing the issues, man. There's very few founders, as you know, kind of address that. So I really appreciate that, putting that on the record. And, from one founder to another, I tip my hat off to you guys. Much respect on those growing pains and the way you guys are navigating them. All right, but let's transition into a little bit of like great artist relations and great collector relations on this standpoint. Now that we're on the topic, let's talk about POC, guys. Let's talk about POC. Like, you guys had a very, very stoked historic drop. Let's talk about the merge sale and how that came about.
Actually, it kind of came about in a sort of like casual way. It wasn't something that we had been planning for a very long time. It sort of came together last minute. And we actually, again, this speaks, I think, to the team that we built. We were not the ones who were on the ground with POC. That was members of our team who were talking with POC and who said hey, we should do something during Art Basel. And then everyone came together and worked really hard to get everything ready for the launch. But it wasn't something that had a huge buildup. I think a lot of us honestly were surprised by how much of a success it became. If you had asked me, I definitely was not expecting that. I was expecting, I think the sale with POC that we did in January was 17 million, something like that. I was expecting, 30 million, 40 million. I was not expecting the largest ever artwork sale by a living artist. So that was honestly really cool to see. And then I was incredibly thrilled because of the way that the Nifty system held up and the way that it was just a buttery, smooth experience for almost everybody. There were some issues, but almost everybody who participated had this incredible purchasing experience, which at that level of volume, at that level of traffic to your website, I think was a really an amazing achievement for the Nifty Gateway team. So overall, I was in, that was one of the moments for me as we talked a lot about today, really the biggest transition for us has been hands-on doing work at Nifty to hands-on building the team who does work. I was really, really proud of the team we built because from start to finish, they just executed amazingly. And it was really awesome to witness.
Yeah, and I will just say, it just shows how much opportunity there is if you build an awesome project with a custom smart contract that's on chain. And the art is not just the image, far from it. The art is, the contract and the code. But that's something POC has understood from very early on. I remember talking to POC even before we launched the original Nifty Gateway. And back then, they were already thinking about art as code and how a lot of art is, it's an experience. This is something that physical artists do really well. When you're looking at a Rothko, you just have this experience of being in awe. And art is really good at inducing an emotion, and that is what art as code can do, right? The merge, part of the artwork itself is seeing how it merges and changes, and the game theory of what people do, and it's almost like a living piece of performance art, and it's just this really, really cool thing that we've never seen before and wouldn't be possible without blockchain tech. So I just think it just shows the potential for those sorts of projects, and that's something that we at Nifty have done a little bit. That's something that we at Nifty have done a lot of, is custom work and working closely one-on-one with artists to devise really, really awesome stuff. And that's something we want to do a whole lot more of, just the artist code and building this whole smart contract, which is a work of living art. And it was just so cool. And, so much respect to POC. What an impressive drop. They really just raise the bar every time.
Facts on facts on facts. And thanks so much for that take, man. And I love that transition of working in your business, working on your business as founders as well, and letting other people come in and let their genius shine. I think that's an incredible lesson here as well. As founders, you don't have to solve all the problems. You can just find the people to help you solve those problems. So that's a really epic aspect as well. And shout out to POC. They really did do a great job at that on that drop. Really, really awesome, really refreshing, especially during Art Basel. All right, guys, I have an incredibly hard-hitting question, guys. Like
Yeah.
this is going to be so like bear with us. What's it like to work with your twin brother, and then what's it like to work for another pair of twin brothers? Like hot seat. Let's go.
Many punches here. Holy crap. I always like to, okay, here's the way I like to talk about working with your twin or really any sibling, which is like the benefit of knowing someone for your entire life is you have a foundation of trust and like a long relationship. So there's like, it's very, that simplifies a lot of things, right? You really don't have to worry about your founder stabbing you in the back because like, you know, I mean, mom would probably be pretty pissed if you stabbed me in the back, Griffin. Yeah. Have you seen Succession? Well, so that's the other thing that's the other side that I'll mention, which is like generally when you're a sibling with someone, you're like raised similar, you know similar people, you've gone to similar schools. You usually tend to be overly competitive with like your siblings, and you can see that divide a lot of like this is always the way it goes with sibling run businesses. Like 80% of them, huge foundation of trust, they work great. The other 20%, there's bitter rivals and they end up like moving across town and opening up a competing shop, and like their whole life is dedicated to beating their sibling. Like I think it's Adidas and Reebok, two brothers who originally worked together, and now like I can't remember the details, but you see the competitiveness like come back to bite people occasionally. I think Griffin and I have, you know, like we do a good job focusing on the trust and like, you know, not really being competitive with each other. But that is like, it's kind of a double-edged coin, is the way that I would talk about sibling relationships in business. And I would say we kind of tell the story a lot, but Duncan and I actually, you know, we originally were working on separate startups, but also living together and working on separate startups. And it was actually when we went and saw a talk with the founders of Stripe, Patrick Collison, and he was just talking about working with his brother, John Collison, because, you know, Stripe is also like a brother founded company. And he talked about their approach of really compartmentalizing their work. They just made sure that they were working on separate things because they knew if they were working on the same thing, then they would butt heads. And that was a light bulb moment for Duncan and I. We realized we have a lot of complementary skills and we're very aligned just by nature of knowing each other so well and being identical twins. But as long as we compartmentalized our work and made sure we worked on different things, then we thought we could accomplish a lot by working together. And that's what it felt like. When we started working on Nifty Gateway together, it was like 1 + 1 = 5. I feel like we were able to accomplish a lot more and build a lot more. And yeah, working with the Winklevosses and another set of brothers, I think has been great. I mean, there are a lot of similarities, and that what I said also applies to them for sure. That, you know, they're very good at working together and they have a very strong foundation of trust. And it just means you have upper leadership that's really aligned, but also people who can push back on each other and, you know, present all sides of view while still being aligned. So I don't know. I think it's pretty great. And really throughout history, a lot of companies are brother founded. Like even Standard Oil, you know, I've been reading a lot of books about the late 19th century recently. And like even Standard Oil was John D. Rockefeller and his brother William founded it together. And so it's not talked about a bunch, but yeah, a lot of companies are founded by siblings. And I think it's for very good reason. Napoleon had a bunch of siblings. He just spread them all across Europe, you know. Yeah. That's a good example. Some of them like turned against him, whatever, you know.
Succession. It's succession.
That's succession, yeah,
exactly. 17th century succession, you know.
Love it. Well, look, as we kind of close things out, you know, just give us a quick rundown. I know you mentioned some of the big features and issues, but what else can we expect from Nifty Gateway in the year 2022?
I mean, just want to recap. We're launching a generalized secondary marketplace. You'll be able to trade every NFT on Nifty Gateway, and you'll be able to do it for 70% lower gas fees than other blockchains. If something's listed on 0.4 ETH on Nifty and it's listed for 0.4 ETH somewhere else, that purchase is always going to be cheaper because of the lower gas fee, the total all-in cost. So we're incredibly excited about that. We can't wait to see what'll unlock for the NFT space. And we're doing the verified drop tools. We're going to open up the platform so everybody can use the drop tools that have been so successful with the curated medium. I think we've paid out something like $300 or $350 million to artists, a very high number. And that's just with the curated drops. You know, that's limited by the fact that there are 7 days in a week. You know, there's only 7 curated drops that we can do in a week. Once we have the verified tools, anyone are going to be able to use those tools that have been so successful for other people, and hopefully that 300 million number becomes 30 billion or 300 billion. I think it can, because artists are, the fact that artists are making a living doing this is one of the best aspects of the NFT space, hands down. So those are the 2 main things: verified drop tools, secondary marketplace for everything with lower gas fees. And we're going to continue to do awesome curated drops. As we've really reached I think like the POC drop was a huge success, and the team is, we're really at a point where we can do amazing curated drops. Like, I think we have like a track record like no one else in the space. So we're going to keep doing those awesome curated drops, and it's going to be incredible. And then there's a bunch of other stuff too that, that to keep your eyes out on, like a lot more announcements. Those are just like the main things on the top of my mind.
Yeah, that was fantastic. You crushed it, Duncan. And I would just say, make sure to follow us both on Twitter. I'm G Cock-Foster on Twitter, and Duncan is D Cock-Foster, I believe.
I'm DC Cock-Foster.
DC Cock-Foster, yeah. Middle name Carl. That'll be the best way to get updates about everything that's coming on Nifty. And then also follow Nifty Gateway at Nifty Gateway on Twitter. And we're just excited to ship a lot of stuff and try to build stuff that moves the ecosystem forward.
There it is. Well, we look forward to seeing it all come to fruition and moving things forward as well. Duncan Griffin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Wow. What an episode, Alejandro. What stood out to you?
Matt, what an episode indeed, man. I think what really stood out for me was Duncan and Griffin's vulnerability and authenticity around being founders in a high growth, fast growing startup such as Nifty. So many people on the outside, on the outskirts, are only seeing the numbers in terms of revenue and sales, but they really don't know what really happens in the back end in terms of growing pains. And I love the way that they took ownership. They took responsibility for the areas where they fell short, and it was done in a very authentic way. And I think that they're positioning themselves to win in the long term, playing long-term games. That's really what resonated with me. And then the second thing that really stood out for me, man, is like, I'm really excited for this whole lower gas fee future that is going to be present in 2022 on Nifty Gateway, especially for newcomers, because gas can be such a detriment to onboard new people, because it's a concept that many don't really understand. So if you see something that is same price but lower cost to transact, I think that there's going to be really interesting as to how that's going to position them in the marketplace within the other platforms.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I really appreciated how straightforward they were, kind of acknowledging what went right, what went wrong, as you said, taking responsibility. And, I think Nifty Gateway has a really important role to play. For so many people, it's been their onboard ramp to this ecosystem. And as we're seeing an explosion in interest in NFTs to kick off the year and so many new users coming aboard, I think there's it's going to play a critical role, and I'm excited to see how things play out as well. Before we go, just a reminder to always, go to your podcast platform of choice, give us a review. We love the stars and always happy to hear from you. And we will catch you next time on the NFT Now podcast.